Wonderful. Well, let's get started now. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for a session on the Bachelor of Business Administration in Innovation and Sustainability. Next slide. Before we get started, most of you are familiar with Zoom, but here's a quick overview of the interactions and the functions here. So I'd love to know where in the world you're joining us from. If you want to click on the bottom of the screen with the chat function, you can say hi and let us know in the chat. I'm currently in my home office here in Victoria, British Columbia. There's also an option to raise a hand throughout the meeting too. You can see that circled in red there. And there's a reactions button at the bottom right. That's my favorite button of the screen. Feel free to give me a thumbs up to let me know that you found the button, or you could give me a clap, or we can pretend that I made a really funny joke and you can give me one of those laughing cry emoji faces as well. Next slide. I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. Royal Roads University acknowledges that we live, learn, and work on the traditional lands of the Esquimalt and Songhees families. Next slide. A warm welcome here to our associate faculty, Tabea Berg and Michael Pardy, who will be sharing information today about the Bachelor of Business Administration in Innovation and Sustainability program and taking you through the majority of the presentation today. And a warm welcome to all of you here. Thank you for joining us. And Andrea Torres Lopez, the recruitment manager, will also be co-hosting the session with me. We also have enrollment advisors monitoring the chat, so feel free to and welcome to ask any questions throughout, and we will have an opportunity at the end for questions as well. The BBA in Innovation and Sustainability is a new and distinctive program, which we will talk more about throughout today's presentation. And very exciting, it's launching in the new format in fall 2021. Next slide, please. Oh, and I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Imara Angus, and I'm also an education advisor, and I will be co-hosting today's presentation. Next slide, please. Wonderful. So the agenda for today is a brief overview of Royal Roads and the Royal Roads University experience. We will be going through program information, as well as application process and requirements, and then we'll make sure to have some time at the end for any questions. Next slide, please. At Royal Roads, it's the small details, but you will notice that we go out of our way to learn your first name first, to get to know you. This simple personal gesture conveys a deep philosophical position for us. It reminds us your path here at Royal Roads is personal, and it's solely yours, and it is deserving of our attention in a way that is as fitting to you as your name is. Life is also an education, and as we all know, not all learning takes place in the classroom. Even here, actually, especially here, we value and respect students who arrive with a variety of life and educational experiences. We think flexibly about admission and take into consideration professional qualifications that go beyond previous grades and degrees. Life is the biggest school of all, and we happily accept its credits. And there's no in here and out there when it comes to education with Royal Roads University. No division between theory and practice. You learn from scholar practitioners, study with seasoned professionals, and put research to practical application. And education isn't about putting your life and career on pause. It's about bringing them to an entirely new place and a whole other level. Next slide, please. And at Royal Roads University, we are an Ashoka U Changemaker campus. The Ashoka U Changemaker Campus Network is a dynamic global community of more than 40 universities and colleges committed to advancing social innovation and change making across their institution and beyond. Next slide, please. And here are some pictures of our campus, including Hatley Castle in the top left. The top right is the Esquimalt Lagoon, which can be seen from campus. The bottom left there is Charlie's Trail. It's actually one of my favorite on-campus places to go for a lunchtime walk. And here at Royal Roads University, we've been leaders in online learning for 25 years. Next slide, please. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Tabea Berg and Michael Pardy, Associate Faculty for the BBA in Innovation and Sustainability, and they will be speaking more to the program.
Well, a very warm welcome to everyone who's joined us today for this webinar. Michael and I are really excited to be speaking with you a little bit about the program, giving you kind of a high-level overview of what to expect in the program. So thank you for joining us today. And we hope that this presentation will be informative, and we look forward to any questions that you might have for us. So just talking a little bit about the structure of the program before we get into the nuts and bolts of it. The BBA is an on-campus full-time degree completion program comprising years 3 and 4. It can be completed within 16 months or 4 terms, with those terms running from September through December or January through April. And there's some program completion options, including a capstone or internship. And just it's worth noting that to ensure that you're able to complete the required number of work hours associated with the internship, students who do choose the internship option would need to extend their studies into a 5th term. But you can complete, as I said, within 4 terms or 16 months. So we're really excited about what this reimagined BBA program has to offer, and Michael's going to share some of what makes the program distinctive. Michael.
Thanks, Emera, and thanks, Tabea. Yeah, we said I'm going to go through the program at a fairly high level, and I'm going to base my conversation around these 4 critical questions. Talk a little bit about why we've bothered to redesign business education, what are sort of the underlying concepts that we've used to build the program, how the program actually works, and we'll go into some detail about that because the experience is quite different than a traditional university education. And then we'll talk a little bit about who we've built this program for. So I'll start by talking a little bit about the why. So a number of people have talked about the fact that this is a new program at Royal Roads. And so I thought I would just sort of address this right up at the front. Why bother changing what we've been doing already for over 20 years? Well, I think the answer is pretty straightforward, that the needs of business and society have changed over the last couple of decades. You only have to look at what we've experienced over the last 10 months as a kind of example of and a microcosm of some wider changes. We know that businesses are working in an increasingly volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. And this uncertainty is definitely being driven in part by technology, but there are wider social and political patterns at play, including things like globalization and climate change, and increasing wealth disparity and a demand for equity and social justice. And so when we think about that, and when we listen to business leaders, we hear very clearly that these organizations and leaders are looking for employees and for entrepreneurs with new and different sets of skills that have traditionally been taught in business. And so they're looking for an ability to work and make decisions in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment. They're looking for people to be able to design in real time and to take advantage of new and emerging opportunities and to respond to new and challenges. That a lot of this work takes place on teams, not in isolation from other people. And that while you're doing all of these things, you need to learn new skills and technologies as you're working. And so this is quite different than the more stable and predictable business environment of the 1950s, the 1960s, and early 1970s, that we really are talking about a new way of doing business for the 21st century. And so we've built this program in response to those needs. I think equally important, we've heard from students. Students tell us that they're not just interested in making money, but that they want to make a difference. And that at its heart, they understand business to be solvers of problems, not just makers of money. And so students want to use their skills and knowledge to be a part of the solutions to the problems that we're facing in the world. And so this new BBA is a response to these contemporary needs of business and society. So that's a tall order, it's a big challenge. And so what does the new BBA sort of look like? So if we switch here, I just want to talk a little bit about the new program at a high level, and then we'll look at some of the specifics. So we started from scratch. And I guess as our sort of operating assumption, we've looked at building a program that is about real world challenges, responding in real time with real people. And so this looks and feels very different. This is not about learning the theory and then graduating and going into the work. This is actually about working while you're studying, I think, practically. And so we are looking at providing you with job-related experience and learning while you're still at school. We're looking to have a real-world impact while you're still at school. And importantly, this also means then that you graduate with a portfolio of work-ready skills that you can use on your resume and when you're applying for jobs. So this is a very different way of approaching education. So how do we do this? Well, this was the challenge that Tabea and I faced as we looked at redesigning this program. And so there are a number of things that we've done, but I think you can't understand any of it unless you understand, I guess, the basic sort of building block of this program, which is about projects. So throughout the program and in every term, and in every course, and I'll put that in quotes because we'll talk about that in a minute, you are working on projects with real clients that work and run real organizations. And so what that means practically then is that this is highly applied and that the theory that you learn is in support of the projects, not the other way around. And so we start with the project and then we look at what you need to know to complete those projects. And so this is a project-based learning program. And we know from project-based learning research that this really helps engage students in learning that's deep and long-lasting, because of course it engages your whole person. It means that you're empowered to envision your role in the change that we want to see in the world. It means that you, I think, have an easier path to finding the love that you might have for this learning and a personal connection to the academic experience. It doesn't distance you from it, but pulls you in and calls you to these broader commitments that we've made to business and society. And I think importantly, it exposes you while you're at school to working professionals and associated career paths. We know, for example, that many of the, again, jobs in the future don't have descriptions, that you are constantly going to have to respond in real time and learn new skills. And so it's not about becoming something, but about being a lifelong learner. And this program is built on that assumption. It means you travel through this program in a small cohort of up to 24 students. It means that you work continuously in teams of various sizes on real world problems in real time. And you're supported while you do this in a variety of ways, including by a group of facilitators and educators and other kinds of online resources. And so this is a very dynamic, highly interactive a program. And so to help us understand what the experience will be like, I'm going to pass it back to Tabea to talk a little bit about some of the details.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you join this program, you'll notice right away that the structure is very different. So as Michael mentioned just previously, it's project-based learning, and the projects really are the containers for the student learning. Typically, the structure of underground business programs means that students go through a succession of courses. So maybe 3, 4, 5 at a time in a given term. And each of these courses represent a different functional area within the business. So that means then that each course for students is a standalone experience. But that structure doesn't really reflect what goes on in the real world of organizations in terms of how they function or how business decisions are actually made. For example, if you design a product, you have to consider how you're going to get that product into the hands of customers, what the implementation of that will look like in terms of how you're drawing upon the skills of your employees, or perhaps where they might need to gain some new skills, how you're going to promote and finance that new product, and then how the decisions you're making in that implementation intersect with your stakeholder systems and the general environment that you're operating within. So we need to think about how we can ensure that students are learning in a way that helps them understand and gains the skills that they need for the actual work that they'll be doing, which is integrating all of these different disciplines. So if we take marketing as an example of one of those traditional courses, as a discipline, marketing can be broken down into an assortment of discrete concepts. Sorry, I've missed. There's some fancy animation here that I'm just wrapping my head around still. But if we take marketing as an example, we've got a toolbox of theories and concepts and processes that we use to design a product or service. And then also part of marketing is how we're going to get that product or service into the hands of our customers who are going to benefit from it. And as marketing is often taught, students will follow a conceptual sequence, moving from one topic to another, usually starting with questions around understanding customer value and then moving on to things like pricing and advertising. Here we go. But those topics don't necessarily have to be organized in a single course. And in fact, they might be more meaningful to you as students if they're broken apart and applied in real time to those client projects that Michael was talking about. And in that way, students, as you're engaging, can see the relevance of those concepts and cultivate the skills associated with those by applying them directly to the project. So the concepts then from multiple disciplines can be combined and configured in ways that are more authentic to the way that people in organizations actually do this work, solving business problems or pursuing opportunities that they see. And with those functional silos broken down and the learning happening in context of real projects, that learning then becomes more meaningful. In this process, students are also developing a more intuitive, direct understanding of how organizations solve problems that are usually more complex than maybe they would anticipate. So if we look at an example of how this might work in an actual project, let's say that students have been asked by company XYZ to assess their manufacturing processes and to recommend changes that are going to enable that company to improve their financial and environmental performance. So this is an example of a real world complex problem that draws on a range of different disciplines and skills. So in terms of the relevant, content blocks from those more traditional business discipline areas, this project would draw from the operations management subject area to model the manufacturing processes and evaluate the efficiency of those processes. It might also look upstream into the supply chain to discover whether suppliers have the capacity to change their own processes within the larger system. And the kind of change that that company is looking for will likely involve installing new equipment or machinery, maybe even full factory updates. So the students need to know something about capital budgeting and how they're going to finance these changes. Since this company is committed to sustainable practices and being able to report those, students are going to need a way to compare the environmental outcomes of various processes, and they're going to have to draw from environmental management to learn about emissions, quantifying, and life cycle assessment. So finally, making a change to processes always means change management. And so they'll draw upon that learning from leading social change. So in this way, kind of by liberating that curriculum from within the traditional course-based structure and moving it into integrative project learning, students have access to all of the material that they need to solve this company's problem in an informed but also a practical way. So students, in effect, are getting the learning that they need when they need it in context. And that enables them to solve those problems, developing relevant problem-solving skills in complex, sophisticated situations, just as they're going to need to do when they graduate. But again, they do all of this in an environment where they're supported by process facilitators walking them through the various steps. So looking at another project example, the student's next project might draw from an entirely different cluster of skills and concepts. So in this example, we've got an ice cream producer and they want to improve their sustainability around their packaging. But they still want to make sure that that project is still appealing, or the packaging is still appealing to their customers. So they might look at frameworks and models from ecology and management to think about packaging and waste. They'll need to do some marketing research to understand consumer preferences and expectations. And they might want to test a few product packaging designs with customers to see how they'll react. So that, again, is going to draw from marketing concepts. And then they might apply some behavioral economics to gain insight into how those packaging changes might influence customer decision-making and how different designs can encourage customer purchases. And then, of course, there's a whole lot of innovation and design work that can also be happening in this project. So over their time in the program, students will have worked on a portfolio of live projects. And so in each of them, they're learning and directly applying those relevant and interdisciplinary concepts, processes, and skills. And so collectively, the program then is ensuring that after 4 semesters of this project-based learning, every student will have learned and applied concepts in the full suite of business curriculum and see in real time why the concepts covered are important to theory and practice. And then those two things are not uncoupled, but they're being developed side by side. I think more importantly, the students in that project work are learning how to bring a variety of relevant perspectives to the problems, including stakeholder perspectives. And these are the things that they're going to need to do when they're entering the workforce after graduation. So those interpersonal team skills that they will have developed through working on a variety of projects, project management skills as they engage with a variety of clients, and again, client stakeholders. So in this design, we feel that the program is going to enable students to graduate with the career-ready skills that Michael was talking about earlier. But also, it's a way for them to gain kind of boots on the ground relevant job experience so that when they're hired, they're ready to hit the ground running from day one. And Michael will talk about the who of the program.
Thanks, Tabea, for that overview. So this is a different kind of program, and I don't think it's for everyone. But I think it has some strong appeal for people that believe in capitalism with a conscience, that doing business should also mean doing good, and doing good for the community, for the environment, for the society, and for the business itself. So this, the subtitle for this program is on sustainability and innovation, and we really believe in living that in the delivery of the program. It's for people that are really keen to develop sought after business skills to advance your career while making a difference in the world. And it's for people who want to learn while collaborating with others. And that includes your other students, that includes business leaders, and with the program facilitators. And collaborating on projects, as we've said, that make a difference in the world. So this is a program that looks to the present and the future, not to the past, for its inspiration. And so if you are excited by working on real world opportunities and real world challenges, if you love working with other people, if you're the kind of student that loves to be doing while you're learning, this is the program for you. I just want to give you some examples of the kinds of projects that you would be working on. Obviously, this program hasn't started yet. It starts in September, but these are examples of the kinds of projects that we work on in other programs, and that we would look for the similar kinds of projects for this new BBA. So, for example, right now, we are working with students on projects that involve helping an international telecommunications company improve their ability to meet and exceed their sustainability standards. So, they've been working on reducing waste, on reducing the amount of water that they use, the amount of energy that they use. But they need a hand in figuring out how else they might do this so they can continue to improve. We have groups of students working with an impact investing firm that is looking to expand the pool of money and the projects that they work on so that they can have an even greater impact on society and the environment through finance. We are working with a company that is looking to use blockchain technology to help farmers report and realize the benefits of making investments, sustainability investments on the farm. So this is quite an exciting project. We're working with a company at the moment that's looking to actually achieve some sustainability certification. And they are a consumer product company. They work on ergonomic innovations for the home office. So each of these projects is quite different. You'll notice that these businesses operate at different scales. Some of them are quite local. Some of them are regional, national, and international. They're all looking at different kinds of problems and opportunities that they need help with. And this, I think, does a great job of kind of representing the kinds of projects that we would be working on.
So really the primary goal of this program is to help you as a student explore your own vision for how you want to make a difference in the world. So how do you see yourself as a practitioner within organizations, or perhaps launching your own sustainability oriented organization, and helping to equip you as you pursue that vision of making your unique difference in the world. How you're going to engage in sustainable practice, in sustainable innovation for organizations, the environment, the society, and really more practically, the community in which you are living and working. So along those lines, there are a number of different ways that you might take your learning in this program and apply that in a career context. And that includes, your own entrepreneurial new venturing through eco-entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship. And you might have a vision to launch your own organizational response to what you're seeing as sustainability challenges around you. And then there are lots of careers available in sectors like green tech, fair trade and sustainability or sustainable energy, but we're also realizing that more and more organizations across industries are thinking about their sustainability practices and how to respond to the needs of the 21st century that Michael was talking about in terms of their supply chains, their responsibility to stakeholders, and so on. Career opportunities in economic and business development, in community planning, and then various roles within, I guess what we might say is the umbrella category of sustainability consulting. So doing sustainability audits, helping to advise companies perhaps on their carbon footprint or ways they might more innovatively respond to the various challenges that they're facing. So lots of opportunity, career-wise, lots of opportunity, of course, to take the learning that you gain in this program and funnel that into work that is meaningful for organizations, but is also meaningful for you. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Amara.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tabea and Michael. If I didn't already have a BBA, I would want to be in this program. It sounds just wonderful. Excited to see what it's like in the fall. And on to other important things like how to apply. So next slide. We have standard admission. So for standard admission, students who have completed a minimum of 60 college or university credits, including 24 second-year level credits in any discipline from a recognized post-secondary institution with a minimum overall GPA of a B, are eligible for admission. So that's through standard admission. And as you know, at Royal Roads, we have flexible admission because we understand that our students are coming from all different types of experience. So for flexible admissions, it's applicants who do not meet the standard admission requirements. And it's for applicants who have completed at least 30 college or university credits and have a minimum of 5 years of full-time business-related work and or volunteer experience with 3 years at the management, supervision, and or project leadership level. Or applicants who have completed fewer than 30 college or university credits and have a minimum of 7 years of full-time business-related work and or volunteer experience with 5 years at the management, supervision, and or project manager level. And I know that's a lot of text and a lot of content. And if you're wondering where you fit in, whether you fit under flexible or standard, reach out to us, connect with us. Every single person has their unique background. Tracy just popped something into the chat there with the admission requirements. You can check it out there, and also reach out to enrollment if you have any questions and wonder about your eligibility. Next slide, please. So we also have additional requirements. Successful applicants will also demonstrate strength gained through work, previous studies, volunteer, and or personal development in 2 or more of the following areas. So that's business, entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship and social impact, environmental protection or conservation, social, cultural, and or environmental sustainability, and civic leadership or community engagement, as well as demonstrate through their statement of intent a clear alignment of personal, sorry, the chat just blocked my screen there, personal goals and vision with the goals, values, and processes of the program. Next slide, please. So how to apply? You will need to apply with supporting documents, including official transcripts, detailed resume, personal statement, statement of intent, and 2 letters of reference. And there's more information about this on the website, so if you need to go into detail to know what you need. Thank you, Tracy. She's included a link in the chat, so check that out. And there's also an online application fee as well of $126.28. Next slide, please. So this is important information, key dates. The next intake, as we mentioned, that's going to be in the fall, so September 7th, 2021. And the application deadline for this is June 7th, 2021. So you have a few months to get your application ready. If you have any questions, like I mentioned, reach out to enrollment, reach out to us, and we'll do our best to help and support that process. Next slide, please. And financial aid. I get it, we all get it. School can be very expensive sometimes. And if you need financial aid, I highly recommend connecting with financial aid and award specialists and checking out our website. Right now, we actually also have information about government assistance programs for those affected by COVID on the website. So absolutely check that out. There are resources there to support you. Next slide, please. And enrollment services. As I mentioned earlier, I really recommend if you're not sure if you are eligible or if you have questions about where you fit into the program, please reach out to Enrollment Services. They are so helpful. We have a few of them as well in today's webinar, so you can always pop a question into the chat if you have any questions that you'd like answered right now. And next slide, please. And thank you. Do you have any questions? I will invite Tabea and Michael back on and we can answer any questions or do our best to connect you with the right person.
Do you want me to stop sharing the slides, Imara, so we can see people?